Hello to my fellow history lovers and people that think if I learned something new today, it will be a good day. I think we're all going to have a good day. So someone in the comments, thank you, Mike, asked me if I had ever heard of the artillery school in the American Revolution, and I had never heard of that, but it sounded really cool, like wizard school. I often say that the American Revolution can out-drama anything on the screen. So here's what I learned. So Henry Knox, if you remember, is the famous guy that took the artillery train to Washington when he desperately needed it. So let's go back in history just a little bit. The shot heard around the world, the very first battle of the American Revolution, think Lexington and Concord, when the rebels stand up to the redcoats the first time and basically chase them back to Boston. And then they encircle Boston, which itself is the world turned upside down. So I want you to think this is 1775. Britain is the greatest army in the world, and they're basically hunkered down and unable to get out of Boston. Well, then comes Bunker Hill, where they at least get a hill, but they still cannot basically, get out of that area. They're still trapped by these rebels. And Washington wants the job done. He wants them out of Boston. So someone says, hey, I think I can get you some cannons from Ticonderoga via our friends Benedict Arnold, the eventual traitor, and Henry Knox. And they bring all these cannons through the snow. They get them to Washington. He puts them up on a hill. And basically the British wake up one morning. They look up at Dorchester Heights. Remember, they're trapped in Britain, and thought, wow, any moment Washington could start bombarding us. So they literally leave Boston. And the rebels take over Boston again. So this is the Henry Knox that then will go to Congress and say, hey, I think we should have an artillery school so we can actually train guys to run this stuff. And at first, Congress kind of poo-pooed the idea because they didn't have a lot of money. They were chronically underfunded, but eventually they agree, and that's where we get to this artillery academy, which was called the Pluckemin Cantonment. I thought it was Cantonment, but it's Cantonment. And it was the first, I wrote down some notes for you here, military academy in the United States, predating West Point. So basically they had barracks, they had workshops, they had a laboratory, and they would have the officers actually study geometry and trigonometry for aiming the cannon. They studied fortifications and engineering, logistics and supplies. So this was literally all straight out learning about artillery, and they would have an artillery park where they would actually practice shooting and a shooting range. And then finally there was a laboratory where they learned about repairing and filling artillery cartridges. So the whole place was kind of lost to history until archaeologists found it in the 1970s and started putting it together. I'm going to link below to a more detailed video that someone else did that I thought was fascinating. But thank you, Mike, and thank you to everyone for watching. I thought it was really kind of cool information.